Greetings in the name of Yahusha Mashiach, our King, our High Priest, Kohen forever through the order of Melchizedek, who intercedes for us, to the Ancient of Days, our Alua, Yahuwah. My name is Malek Shalomo. Today I'm going to do a trade recap I did on ES Futures, and let's just jump into it right now. So the Camarilla levels, now there's a lot on my chart, so let me just take off the volume profile, and I think these VWAP bands will be okay, but there's not much I could really clean up on this chart. I just have to break it down so you can see what's going on here. Alright, so I'm gonna just point out some stuff. Let's see, I'm gonna use this and this. Alright, so this is previous days Camarilla R3 that moved down, right? It moved down to 58, 66, 51, and that green line right there with it is the bottom central pivot at 58, 66, 63. So that's creating, I'm labeling these a silver pivot zone, which is basically a double pivot zone with the central pivot and a Camarilla pivot, right? So I label it a silver pivot zone, right? So looking at yesterday's central pivot as well, this is the top central, that dark red line. That blue line is the central pivot, and this is the bottom central pivot for the prior day. So you can see there's an overlapping lower value here in the central pivot, right? So it's an overlapping lower value, which is moderately bearish, right? So Camarilla R3 moved down to 58, 66, 51. And this is, let's see, this was Camarilla S3, right? I'm gonna have to open that up a little bit because it's covered with a low volume node. All right, so that was Camarilla S3 from the prior day, and this is now Camarilla S3 moving down here, right? So let me just bring it into focus to where it moved down. So Camarilla R3 did not move past yesterday's Camarilla S3, so we're in an overlapping lower value relationship. So let me just bring the Camarilla S3 into focus, right? So Camarilla S3 is now at 58, 37, 49. Right, let me just get rid of this. Right, so that's Camarilla S3 right now. For today, it's 58, 37, 49. And that's an overlapping lower value relationship. So you can see we open in the ETH. We had some rejections here. We broke down Camarilla S3, had some rejections, some retests. And let me just make this smaller. Right, so my quantum trading dynamic pivots signaled a pivot, a reversal pivot here and here. We had these reversal bars, right? Engulfing bars breaking down, another engulfing bar. So it's kind of similar to what happened on the prior ETH, right? So we had a ETH session yesterday that kind of did the same thing. So this broke down again in the ETH session. So let's follow price action. Right, so this had even more powerful selling than the prior ETH breakdown. Right, this is the open of London session. They took it even lower as well. See increase in selling. And then we came down here to the prior week's low, right, just at 58.01 and started getting some support here. Pushed us back up around, let's see, 8:30 this morning. So we had some news come out. I think after the news, we started to consolidate, do kind of like I guess it's like a bearish flag and then a breakdown, right? So this was my mistake today. With all this selling pressure going on here, I should not have attempted a bowling green strategy. I should have stuck with what I did yesterday, which was a 360 fire strategy, which is basically a retest of -1 VWAP and for continued selling, right? So, right, so we had the open here, push down from this is Camaria S5 at 58.06, that blue line right there. That's Camaria S6 at 57.99. And we broke down from here. This is a monthly high volume node. So we broke down, pushed through that really heavily, and came down to flow pivot S4, right? So this is where I'm gonna jump over to Bookmap now. Right, so we have the selling retest at the open. Right, so we have the selling from the open here, a retest, and then further breakdown. Right, so this is previous week's low. We broke down the previous week's low again and started moving down. Right, so this is floor pivot S4. So I'm gonna show you what I did here at floor pivot S4, which is a really low value pivot floor pivot level. It's the last floor pivot level. So this is extremely bearish, right? So this is what made me take the bowling green reversal, right? So right here we have absorption buyers and VPI and volume pressure imbalance spiking to the low side, right? To the downside. So that's volume pressure on the sell side. That's buying pressure right there, right? Well, absorption buyers really is just passive buyers, right? So they're just absorbing the sellers. We don't have a volume pressure buying imbalance yet, right? But it started to come in here. So the volume pressure imbalance, the volume pressure started to step in right here, right? We still had selling pressure though, right? So price still came back down, but what started to happen here is the volume pressure just steadily kept this level right here. Didn't really push back down to the mean, and the selling pressure kind of eased up, right? So we started to move to the upside. This red line here is the stop runs. So the stops that's coming out, that starts to ease up. It comes back to the mean. And these guys here are coming back to the mean as well. The volume pressure on the sell side is coming back to the mean, right? The buying didn't come back to the mean, so it's signifying more volume pressure imbalance to the buy side, right? Now, with that happening in the price action, you start seeing that there's a consolidation happening here. This is -3 VWAP anchored from the RT8 session open. This is -2, and this is -1, right? So we have this consolidation happening here, moving sideways, right? Starts to push up. Now we start getting increase in volume here, and we start getting the volume pressure imbalance to the buy side spiking up on the volume pressure and volume pressure imbalance, right? So here I have it labeled VPA dominance, which is the volume pressure imbalance, and VPA attack, which is the volume pressure, right? So that's, as you see there, that's aggressive sellers, aggressive buyers. So that color right there, that's aggressive buyers. Blue, aggressive buyers, and when it starts spiking at green, that's when it's spiking out, right, to the top side. So we have the volume pressure imbalance, which is in green, and the blue, the volume pressure, is spiking up to the upside, right? So at the time of the trade, just before we start getting that movement to the upside, The sellers aren't spiking, they're still there, but they're not spiking to the downside, but they're still present, right? The volume pressure is still present with the sellers. So as we move up here, as you see, we start getting volume increasing, right? I took that buy entry right there. So that's the bowling green setup. So at S4 is the pivot level, -1 is the VWAP band. We have a prior consolidation. We have the iceberg support and price, right? We do have iceberg sellers as well, but they're not as heavy as the iceberg buyers. In calculation is 270, 280, 112. We have here 75, 10, 12, 30, and this is the only big one here at 281. And with that happening right there, we still get a push through, right? So it's basically 281 sellers and 270 buyers, right? And we still get the push through right there. Volume dropped off a little bit, and then at my entry, it started to pick up again. So jumped in here. That was my stop. Stop trailed up as we moved up a little bit. It pulled back, tagged me out, right? So this, while this pushed up here, this should have been one of my first indications that this trade might not work out and I probably shouldn't take another one, right? So we push up here. We didn't get to the VWAP band, which is here. We had the pullback. No real heavy volume on the pullback though. Volume pressure, the volume, the VPA attack, which is this one, which is volume pressure, is starting to wane off. The volume pressure imbalance is all the way back to the mean, and we still have selling volume here attacking to the downside and the imbalance attacking to the downside. It pulled to the mean, but then pushed back down again. So after this happened here, we have the selling icebergs, right, starting to step in. We have some buying icebergs as well, right? More selling icebergs though, 160 to 187. We have the sellers here. As we push back up, I took another entry right here. That one immediately came back and stopped me out, right? And then I tried another one right here, and that one pulled back and stopped me out. So that was basically it. We have buying as absorption coming in here as well. So I'm thinking, well, maybe this one would work out, right? But we still had the selling pressure that was still heavy. So this was basically another 360 fire strategy. So it's either or, right? It's when you have all this selling pressure, this consolidation here, this pullback to retest -1 VWAP, and then you get the sell-off. It's like the trade recap I did yesterday. It's the 360 fire, right? But in this case, I tried to go long off of the bowling green strategy, off of these indicators right here. But the selling pressure was still too constant, and it's a really big downtrend. We're already at S4. So basically, bowling green strategy is more of a reversal off of Camarilla S3 and Camarilla S4, right? When we get all the way down to floor pivot S4, that's probably too much selling pressure to even get it down to that level to actually consider taking a reversal, right? So if I had taken the 360 fire strategy, which is a retest of -1 and sell, right? So if I sold here the first time, well, I wouldn't sell here the first time because the buyers are coming in strong. But if I do something like this, like a retest here and enter here, right? I probably might get clipped here, and then I could try probably here again, right? Or probably right here. You see when we get that push down right there, we get that low volume retest. That's a place to go short. So it's a 365 is basically it's reversing to -1, and we getting that follow through to the downside. So let's see. Let's see what happened here. And if I did take that trade would have worked out. We would have gotten some pullback here. This would probably stop me out. right? So this would probably be the trade right here. If I did take this entry or this retest right here or this low volume retest, that would take me down probably around here, and probably on the retest here would stop me out, right? So that was the better option right there. So basically it's I'm not gonna take any bowling green strategies. This is my lesson learned for today, right? So if we're down at Camaria S4, I'm most likely gonna try and take more of a 360 fire, which is basically the retest of -1. So you see again, right? So we have a retest of -1 here, -1 VWAP. We have a retest of -1 VWAP here. You could take the breakdown here again, right? Let's see where else. Right, and that's it. It hasn't come back to -1 yet, right? So I'm not gonna take any more trades today. That was 3 losses. That was 3 attempts, so that's good enough. Don't need to take any more. That was the PNL on the day, -262. So yesterday was plus 450. So right now still up about 2 something. So let's see how that goes, right? Um, the wins are outweighing the losses, so still on track right here. Let's see, we have these 1100 icebergs executing right here at -2 VWAP, right? So that's -2 VWAP. We have this iceberg executing 1100 so far. We have the buying volume spiking. We have the sellers absorbing though, right? So sellers are actually absorbing on top here as well. That's why you see, even though we're getting 1100 icebergs executing here, we still have this selling pressure to the downside. The sellers are absorbing, right? So when price pops up here, they're still getting that selling pressure to the downside because they're absorbing all the buyers coming up here. So this is a heavy downtrend right now. So even though you see something like this, it's not really a reason to take a reversal or go long. Let's see, the video is 17 minutes. I'm gonna let it run like about 3 minutes again. Let me just look at the order flow a little bit. Let's go down to like a 30-second time frame. So we do have buying volume stepping up here. We see we have the volume pressure spikes. We still have the selling pressure. Selling pressure indicator, the absorption indicator here is showing in that orange right there, 191, 117. Selling pressure is still there. And now we're still creating these lower highs. And now it's looking like we're getting follow through back down to where the iceberg is executing. So let's see if they're gonna break through this guy here. See the iceberg sellers, they actually stepped off the gas. I mean iceberg buyers. So they stepped off the gas a little bit. They started moving down. So these guys here are front running this guy here. So it's just basically players are seeing that someone is trying to execute here and they're stepping in front. to try and get filled before him. Selling pressure still spiking to the to the downside. We have buying pressure too. We have the absorption indicator going off here. That's selling absorption. This one here is buying absorption, the darker green. And the iceberg is at 57.60. So this is not executing right here, right? You're not seeing the number increase. It's at 1100 right now. It's just one player. So they got to come down to this level here for it to start increasing in execution. I think sellers are going to push through this iceberg though. See, it moved up to 1347. So they're starting to chip away at this iceberg. And there you have the heavy volume selling going through it. We have the spikes on the sell side, and we have the buying absorption spiking as well. And the iceberg stepped up as well. So that's done executing right there. They ran through that. So you can see the big institutions, they want to sell, right? So even if this guy is buying right here, they're still gonna take him on because they actually want all the orders that he has to buy. They want to sell to him, right? So they're not gonna be afraid because they want to get out the market. He wants to get in, he wants to accumulate, and they don't mind, right? They're gonna throw all their orders over here at him, so their price doesn't swoop down too much. When they hit him with big orders, he's gonna accumulate it so they don't get much slippage. Because the lower they sell, because I believe they're stopping out, right? So the lower they sell is the more loss they're gonna take. So they want to get some, so they could start doing manipulations like buying up a little bit and then selling more on top here, because they're gonna, if they sell their positions up here, their long positions, it's gonna be less of a loss. Alright, y'all, so it's Malek Shalomo. That was my trade recap, a little order flow analysis right there as well. And lesson learned today, in this downtrend, I can't really take a Bowling Green reversal at S4, especially when we see so much selling pressure in the market. It's better to take the 360 fire strategy, which is basically a retest of -1 VWAP to go short, right, at a pivot level. If one is around, it's better to have that retest of a pivot level with the -1 VWAP. All right, y'all, it's Malek Shalomo. Y'all trade safe and stay blessed. Shalom.